Yes.
I found it's not sort of a shortcut, but it helps in the rising. I think this was from Jamie Geller, the kosher cook. She's said if you take a cup of water, put it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and then put that cup in the corner, and you take your flour, your mixture, your dough in the bowl, put it in the microwave and let it rise covered in the microwave. And this is what I got. Oh my God.
Yes, that absolutely. It's a great tip. It's a great tip because what it's doing, it essentially makes yourself a proving. There's also, in addition to proving functions on ovens that we talked about earlier, there are things called a proving drawer specifically. That's what they use on Great British Bake Off for anybody who watches. So now when you do that to your microwave, you essentially made yourself a proving drawer.
Okay.
Is there such a thing as that it rose too much?
No.
It basically doubled.
That's great. You're all good.
It doubled.
I've got some bubbles in mine. Can you see? You probably can't see it here, but there are light little bubbles. It's lovely.
Oh, good.
I hope you're bringing me some challah tonight, Rabbi.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
I'm here straight through.
That's a Matthew question, because Matthew doesn't like to share.
He'll share with
me. Is this what it's supposed to look like?
Looks great, Jean.
Oh, that's fabulous. Woohoo.
Looks great.
Rabbi Jordy, it's like a baby bump.
Yes. Who said that? Yes, Sharon. Yes.
Sharon.
Yes, absolutely it is.
Should we start beating it down? Kneading it?
Oh, wow.
Nope. We're gonna start in just a minute. We'll wait for everybody. Just so
sorry.
Technically have 1 more minute, so we'll give them a little space, and then I will keep everyone instructions together.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I didn't realize I do have a proofing function on my oven, so that worked great.
Fancy, fancy.
Oh,
Is
really?
that what that bottom drawer is that you store pots and pans in?
No, it's actually not. The pure function of that is storage and some heat diversion for ovens. Some ovens, those get warm. In my oven, it doesn't get warm at all. So it depends on the oven.
Yeah, mine didn't look like it rose very much. So I had left the oven on and I turned it off and it had cooled down quite a bit. And like the last 45 minutes, I stuck it in with the door propped open, and this is what happened. So it worked.
Beautiful. Good. Beautiful. My dough probably has the least rise of anybody's. That's so funny. Good. Everybody's got big doughs. Hi, Sammy. How's your dough?
Good.
Good.
Well, we just discovered our proving oven, or our bunny just looked at the oven and it says warm proof. So we didn't use it.
It's a double oven, wall oven.
So let's get rolling. I'm just going to stir. I've got chicken soup on the stove, so I'm just going to stir my soup. That's another day. So we're going to get rolling with stuffing and braiding our challah. Again, if you go to the top right of your screen and choose speaker, you'll be able to see both of my video screens, which I think is extra important for this part, so you can see my hands moving. So we have 3 variations today. We have a few people who are joining us who weren't with us this morning. We have 3 variations that we can make today. We have apple spice, we have scallion pancake, and we have butter. First thing I'm gonna have you do is preheat your oven. Your oven's gonna go to 375. Oh, I love everybody goes running. It's so funny.
Mine takes forever to preheat, so.
Yeah, mine, I don't know. This oven is like in 10 seconds, it's preheated. It's pretty awesome. So we're gonna preheat our ovens to 375, and not everybody has to do every kind of challah, but I'm gonna go through each of them on how to do them and stuff them, and then we will make, I'll show you braiding.
How much butter do you need for the butter one?
It depends. You'll see, it depends how big your challah is. It depends how you're breaking up your dough. Okay. So everybody's going to take their dough, right? And right on the counter.
No flour.
You want to have your flour available to you.
Okay.
Ideally, you don't want to have to add too much flour. I've got mine right here in case I need, but you
Do
don't
we
want
put
to
flour on the counter again? Or you don't
No,
have
you
to?
don't really. This is leftover flour. I don't clean my counter in between. It feels silly. So you don't really want to have to add much flour at this point. If your dough is sticking to the counter, then you can, please, can you work on muting background?
Yeah, I will.
So we're gonna, you don't really want to have to flour your dough too much. So mine is nice and soft. It's not sticking to the counter because it's still got a little bit of that oil from the bottom of the bowl. And so you want to take a knife or a dough scraper or whatever it may be. I'm going to use my dough scraper and cut it into pieces. So it depends how many challahs you want to make. If you want to make challah rolls, I'll show you how to do little challah knots as well. It's up to you. So I'm going to make, I think I'm going to do a couple little challah knots to show you those, and then one bigger challah with more strands. So that's going to impact how I cut my dough. If you cut your dough too many times, you can just smush it back together. It'll be totally fine. So I'm going to just cut off a little bit over here. You should feel, your dough should feel nice and light. My dough is much, much lighter than when I put it in. So I'm going to cut these. I'm going to put the bulk of my dough over here because I'm going to show you. So you can either do, we're going to look at challah knots. There's a regular 3-strand braid, which is like braiding hair, or I'm going to show you a 6-strand. So if anybody wants to do a 6-strand with me, just plan accordingly to have enough strands. If you want to do a 6-strand, what I recommend is making 3 long ones when you stuff and cutting them in half and pinching them closed, because then you don't have to stuff it 6 times. That's a lot of work. That doesn't need to happen. So I'm going to make 2 knots here with my scallion pancake and with my apple, and I'll make the big one butter because that's Matthew's favorite. So really what you want to do when you want to roll a challah strand, particularly if you're not stuffing it, this is important to try and get it round. You start in the middle with light pressure and you move out to the ends.
Rabbi
Right?
Jordy, I'm sorry, but
Who is that?
So do we start with 1 and then cut it into 3, or you start with
So
3?
if you want to make a 3-strand challah, you should make 3 strands. If you
Okay.
want to make a 6, make 3 big ones, and then we'll cut them in half. It's just easier if you're stuffing them, right? So it depends what you want to do. This is the choose your own adventure point of the day. So I've now made my strand, and you can either do it with your hand or with a rolling pin. I'm just going to flatten it out. So I'm going to flatten it this way and then roll across so that I've got a flat surface. So I've just got a strip, basically, is what I've made, a strip of challah. And if you have questions, you can unmute yourself. It's the best thing to do is to type it in the chat, and Lisa will read it out loud. That helps us stay clear on what's happening and not get too lost in who's talking. So I've got mine flat. And I'm going to start with scallion pancake. Okay. So what I'm going to do for scallion pancake, I've got my sesame oil and a brush, and I'm just going to brush it down the middle. Right down the middle, like being fairly generous, but you don't want it sopping wet. So mine is definitely, you can see it sort of glistening on there. You don't want to go all the way to the edges. It'll be harder to seal it back up because we're going to seal this up into a roll. So you want to leave some edge that's just plain challah. And then it's hard to see on the camera, but see this shiny patch in here? That's what I oiled. So I just brushed it lightly. Like I said earlier, if you have a brush, great. You should use whatever brush you have. If you don't, you can just take a finger and sort of dab it on. So once I've got my sesame oil down, I'm just going to sprinkle my scallions, my green onions, really generously. I made this at my parents' this summer, and they looked and they said, wow, that's a lot of scallions. And then I baked it and they said, where the hell did they go? Where'd they go? They couldn't imagine what had happened to them. So you really want to be generous with the scallions. I love them. And so I'm extra enthused about them. So I definitely want to have a generous quantity in mind. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to sprinkle some sesame seeds. I like the flavor. I like the little bit of crunch. You do not have to. I know my mom doesn't do seeds, and so.
Rabbi,
Yes.
if you're not stuffing it and you're just making a plain one, do you have to do the flattening out thing?
No. Good
Okay.
question. Thank you. If you're not stuffing it, you don't have to flatten. Just make the snake.
Oh, okay, good.
So,
Do you have to flatten it for the butter version as well?
yes.
Okay, we'll get to that later, but we're making a plain one first. So
Plain
make
one,
it
perfect.
round.
So I'm just going to keep going in variations, and you can add on as you will based on what you'd like to do. So I'm going to close up the strand, which just means I'm going to pick up the edges and sort of fold them over each other and pinch.
Are you able to lift it so we can see? Because I cannot see what you're doing.
Here, let me see if I go from this angle, if you can see better. Is that better?
No, I can't really see below what's written on your shirt. I can't see.
Oh, you should, I have another camera on. Go to speaker view. You should be able to see my hand camera.
Oh, let me see. I couldn't
In your
find
right-hand
that.
corner, Joan, and it'll say speaker view.
It says leave on my right. Oh, that's left-hand
Oh,
corner.
at the top
Sorry,
right.
right-hand corner. Participants share content, stop video, mute, more. And let me go to more.
Are you on an iPad?
Yes.
I think it's in the bottom right.
Oh, bottom right.
You're looking for a button that says view that has a bunch of little squares.
View. I'm seeing the Zoom icon here at the bottom. Oh, here, switch to gallery view.
No, you want to be on speaker. Oh, it might not be because you're on an iPad. It may not let you see two screens. I have a second screen on that's
No,
showing.
it does. The iPad does. It's on.
I
the
see
left.
two on an iPad, yeah.
Oh,
You can see
okay.
two on the iPad.
Okay, I'll try again. Thank you.
So-
Switch camera. Maybe that helps. No.
Switch
it's a-
to gallery view. That's what you should click
Oh,
on.
Okay, so we've now got this strand. If I was going to make a 6 strand, I'll show you how to do that, right? All you want to do is you cut it in half, and then you see you got an open end here. I stuff those scallions in a little bit and just pinch it up and closed. So see here, I've got this open end, stuff it down, pinch up and close. So I've now made 2 strands. The only reason to do it that way is it's a little easier. You have to stuff less times. So now I've got 2 strands. They aren't so even, but I've got 2 strands. And if you want to make a challah knot, which are nice, they're like little individual challah rolls, you literally just tie a knot in it. It's exactly what it sounds like. And you tuck it through. See? Got a little knot. Just this little knot friend. I'm gonna tie another one. So Ed brought this up this morning about taking a piece of challah dough. And so there's this practice called hafrasat challah, which means separating the challah. So what happens is people take a piece of dough and either bake it separately or sometimes throw it away. There are different ways to practice it. There are a lot of origins for it. There's one idea that this is about Adam and Eve and looking at the extra portion that they threw aside. Some see it as many who subscribe to the idea that we're still making up for Eve's sin see it as a little repayment for the sin that she had of eating of the tree and persuading Adam to do so as well. And some see it as in temple times as an offering for the priest, for the priestly class, for the high priest. And so they separate it out. Some people find this a really meaning ritual. I don't. That said, I often end up with little challah ends, like when I cut ends off, or like I've got this little piece here, it's just sort of extra. I save those. And the Callman family Friday afternoon tradition is I smush them all together and I smush them into a pancake shape and I do it in a frying pan. I cook it up in a frying pan and make a challah pancake, and Matthew and I split it. That's how we know Shabbat's coming. It's become this little tradition of ours that we really love. I think what's beautiful about challah is making your own traditions with it and whatever feels good. And so if being a part of that longstanding tradition of separating out the piece of challah is meaningful to you, that's wonderful. And if it's not, you shouldn't do it. Find something else that feels special to you. Also, the other thing I'll add is that tradition, in a traditional world where women don't observe a lot of mitzvot, a lot of commandments, it became a woman's mitzvah, a woman's commandment, and something for them to observe. I feel I have enough of my tradition that is open to me, and so I don't need it in that same way. It's one of the reasons I don't do it. Good answer, Ed? Satisfied? So I've now flattened another strand, and now I'm going to do the apple. So there are a lot of ways we can do this. I'm going to show you my favorite. I'm going to get some raisins. I don't know who asked this morning about raisins, but someone asked if we could do raisins, and yes is the answer. All good, Lise. I'm going to grab mine. And so with the apple, so moisture can be an issue, moisture management inside of challah. And that's the biggest challenge of an apple challah. What you don't want to do, which I used to do, what you don't want to do is make like an apple pie plate, right? And let the apple sit with sugar or with spices, whatever it is, because the apples are going to start to leach their water out and you have a wetter filling, which is great for some things. It's not great for what we're trying to do. So my apples are totally dry. And I'm just going to put them down on the strand, much like I did with the scallions.
Rabbi Jordy, I have a question.
Yeah.
Should I have not cut it in half if I wanted to make a full challah? Or was that just for the knots?
If you want to make, you're going to have to cut it. So if you want to make one big challah out of your dough, then you should cut it into as many strands as you want to make.
Okay, so I did it in half. And then I made thirds out of that half.
Perfect. So you're going to do a big 6-strand challah.
No, I want to do one butter and one. So I'll just do the braid.
So you'll do 2 3s.
Okay, so I shouldn't have cut it in half. Oh, well.
No, you have cut it in half. You want as many strands. You need to decide how many strands you want in your challah.
Strand in half is what I did.
Okay, it's all going to work, Sandy. You're going to make a beautiful challah. That's what I know. So I'm going to put down my apples. See, they're all on here, and I'm going to do some raisins. And then I like, you can do a little shake of cinnamon if you want, or cardamom, whatever it is. I like to take a little honey and just drizzle it on top. So literally right from the bottle, just a little line on top. It's going to give it some good flavor. This is great to do at Rosh Hashanah. It's like such a Rosh Hashanah challah. So you see, I've just got a little line of honey on top here, and I'm going to close this up like I did with the other one. First, I'm going to get some honey on my thumb and eat it. So when we close, again, if you missed it when we were doing the last one, you just want to sort of fold it onto itself and pinch. Fold and pinch. Fold.
What did you say about an egg wash earlier?
We're going to get there.
Oh.
We're going to get there, I promise. Okay, pinch.
Hard to pinch. Mine doesn't look like yours.
All right, we're going to pinch it closed. So I've got some extra on this one over here on the part of the camera you can't see. I've got some extra. I'm just going to pinch it right off. It's going to go to the challah pancake. Goes to the challah pancake pile. So here is I made a really long apple strand. So what I'm probably going to do, I might make a little 3-strander challah. Lisa could have this one, but she doesn't like sweet challah, so Lisa's missing out.
Buttery for me.
I know. Matthew's not parting with this challah, Lisa. There's no way. Okay. I'm just going to pinch it closed. It's going to be a very, very little challah because I've got these little baby strands, but just wanted to sort of show you what that looks like. My recommendation, if you're going to do a 3-strand challah, sometimes it's easier to start from the middle. I can show you what that means. If that's too complicated, then you should braid it the way you know to braid it. What I do with my 3 strands, I start like this. Here, let me move it over. I start like this, and I braid one end. Ooh, it's coming apart. The honey's fighting me. I braid one end. This is a very small challah, so it's a very quick braid. And then I flip it and braid the other to try and avoid having a big lump of dough on one end. Lisa watched me do this 100 times at Zoomathon. Lisa's now a challah professional, in fact. She knows all about this. Perfect. So I'm going to move my finished challahs onto my cookie sheet. So my cookie sheet has a silicone baking mat on it. You can put parchment paper down. Ooh. You can put parchment paper down. You can put, if you need to, you can put tin foil down, whatever you've got. So I'm just moving them over to the cookie sheet, making sure I space them out with enough room to grow. And now I've got the bulk of my challah, my big boy here. I'm gonna do a 6-strand challah with you. Here, let me just grab, 1 sec. We're gonna do a 6-strand challah. And it's not as hard as it looks. Takes a little getting used to, but we're gonna get there. So I'm gonna do mine with butter in it. So I'm gonna cut this into 6 even-ish pieces. If you have a kitchen scale, you can measure them out. I sometimes do that when I have the patience for it. Really depends if my sermon's already written by the time I'm making the challah. So I'm just gonna make 6 even as I can pieces. If they're a little off, nothing's gonna happen. Okay. So I'm really liking the texture of my dough. It's very soft. That's what we wanna see. It should be really light when you pick it up. It's much lighter, a little less dense than what we had earlier. So with the butter, I've got a stick of butter here, and I'm gonna cut this into strips. I'm gonna cut 6 strips because I've got 6 strands. 1. I'm gonna use a whole stick because I'm feeling generous. So the other thing you can do with a butter challah is you can shake everything bagel seasoning on top of the butter before you close the strands up. Lisa's had that one, I think. It's very good. Or Shayna just lost her mind. Or you can do, another favorite of mine is to use dried minced onion in there. It's an awesome flavor. I'm probably gonna shake some of that in this one because again, it's Matthew's favorite. So this dough has been sitting longer than my other ones. It's getting a little sticky. I really would like to not have to flour it because the flour weighs it down. So I'm just flipping the sticky side up is really what I'm doing here. Did I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? So I want to try and get them all to start at the same-ish length. You can see they're not so beautiful. They're not so pretty, right? They're a little uneven. It's all good. So to stuff these, I'm going to flatten them. These I'm just going to flatten with my hand probably because this is a little bit of a messier process. And I'm going to take my strand of butter and break it up down the challah strand.
So when you said strand of butter, you cut the butter, you slice the butter?
I made matchsticks out of the butter.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm then just going to close it right up like I was doing with my other ones. This one feels a little different because it's going to be lumpier. And so when we braid it, you're going to feel that there are chunks inside of it. You're going to feel that. I'm gonna get all of mine done. And if I have a little extra, so I don't actually usually egg wash my butter challahs. I sometimes stick a little butter on top. When you're baking your butter challah, it's going to melt off a lot of butter. There's gonna be a lot of extra butter on the cookie sheet. And so sometimes I sop some of that up with a paper towel. Sometimes I just leave it. The bottom of the challah is gonna be incredible because it sits and bakes in that butter. Can you imagine? So I'm definitely not going to use a full stick on this challah because I'm pretty sufficiently buttered without it. That's a sad strand. You could use a little more. So definitely, you don't actually end up eating all of the butter because some of it does melt out. So, I'm going to throw some onion in mine. I forgot that I was going to do that. Let me grab my onion. All right, so I'm going to move my finished strands out and out of my way so I can get new ones in. And we're just going to keep going. We're going to do this over and over until we've got them all ready. So you can braid a challah with 2, which is a twist. You can do 3 strands. You can do 4, 5, 6, 7. My next goal, I want to do a 14, which is really just a doubled up 7. That's going to be my next project. But today we'll do a 6.
For the challah, if you wanted the 2 challahs, do you just have 3 strips for each challah?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes. So if you want to make a 3-strand challah, you do 3 strips for each.
With the dough that we made, it would take 3 strips for each challah, which will give you 2 challahs, correct?
Yes, for sure. So the dough that we made, you can do any number of things. You can do whatever combination. I do think it's best if you make 2 challahs out of it. I'm making like in today's case, about 70% of my dough went to 1 challah and 30% to the other little pieces. You can make 1 big challah as well. It's really up to you. It will bake longer if you're making 1 big challah.
Are they freezable? Is it a good thing to be able to freeze?
Yes. So I've actually frozen and shipped these for Rosh Hashanah. I sent to my parents and to my brother on the East Coast. So I baked them on a Sunday and froze them overnight. If you ever want to ship, here's what I've learned. If you ever want to ship food via UPS, you bring it at about 4:30 in the afternoon because the truck comes at 5 to pick it up. So if you're shipping something frozen, bring it late in the afternoon. That's the wisdom I've got. And yeah, I just packaged it up. I wrapped it in saran and then in tin foil. So it's not the most environmentally friendly activity. Wrapped it up and yeah, shipped it right to them frozen. And it was 2-day shipping and UPS got stuck. It took them a week to get there and it was still good.
How much do they rise? Do you need more than 1 cookie sheet?
So it depends how much space you've got. It really depends how wide or how tall your challah ends up being.
Well, so far I've got those. Can you see them?
Not really. If you're worried about them growing, if they don't have room to grow a bit, then I would do 2 cookie sheets.
Okay.
I will probably be on 2 cookie sheets as well, just to have the other little pieces on one. The other thing I'll tell you is that every oven is different. We've talked about that if you've done any of our cooking classes. Every oven is different, and especially when it comes to bread, which is finicky to begin with. So you've got to learn. My oven, when I lived in Cincinnati, I had to, I could only bake bread on the top rack, and I had to put a pan in the bottom rack to absorb enough heat for the bread to be able to bake through and not burn on the bottom. Took a lot of burnt challah to figure that out. Every oven's different, so you'll learn the trick. So if you're making 2 challahs, they will likely have to bake for around 25 minutes. That said, you gotta watch your oven. So what you're gonna look for is, Shane is making a face. You're gonna look for a nice browned top. And if you lift it up, you can put a spatula under the bottom. You wanna see that it's browned on the bottom. And if you touch on it, it feels like it's, you've got a little bit of a knock to it. We're gonna bake them on our own because Otherwise, we're going to stand here and look at each other for 25 minutes. So once we've got these settled, I'll give you all the instructions to be able to bake this on your own. I have all the confidence in the world. And you can always email me if you're in a panic. I'll be sure to check email this afternoon. I'm usually pretty good on it. And they're going to be beautiful, but you definitely
Now, if we want to put some sesame seeds on the top, do we have to wait for the egg wash, or we just sprinkle it on?
You want to wait for the egg wash. You want to wait for the egg wash if you want to put anything on top. Oh my God, I brought the onion over and I still forgot to do it. I'll have one strand with onion in it. Well, at this point, I won't bother.
So
Rabbi,
baking, that's,
a couple of people ask if 2 loaves will fit on 1 sheet.
If it depends how wide they are. The general rule of thumb is probably give them 2 sheets. There's no reason not to go on 2 sheets and make sure they have enough room.
so if you're baking 2, does it make sense to bake them separately? Can you leave one out?
It's a hard question because it's sort of oven dependent, and I don't know your ovens. In mine, I'll bake 2 sheets at the same time. I'll flip the sheets halfway through because the ones on the bottom gets a little more love, and the sheet that's on the top of the challah gets a little more love. So I flip them halfway through.
That makes sense.
I also rotate them because in my oven, whichever side is to the back of the oven is browning faster. So I flip which rack they're on and I flip them around. All right, so I am doing up my last strand and then I'm gonna get ready to 6 strand. Is anybody 6 stranding with me? Okay, are we ready to 6 strand? I don't wanna start without you. Okay, Exleys look unclear if they're ready.
I want to do a 6 strand.
Okay.
We have one last one to roll.
Oh, you've got this. Okay. So I'm going to try and move my camera so you're going to be able to see better. This is new, the 2 camera thing. So we're trying to.
Jordy,
yeah.
Did I hear you say to bake them a little bit before you put the egg wash on it?
Yes, I will walk through that for sure. I'll say that again. I promise.
Okay. And they don't fall, the bread doesn't fall in like a cake does?
No.
If you open the oven? Okay, great. No. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's not that. Hold on. Let me try and I've now made a mess of this because it's oily. Okay.
Are we let these rise again? I missed that. I'm sorry.
We are going to let them rise. I will explain it again. I promise. I don't even think I've explained it yet. So I will walk us through.
And what is the oven supposed to be on?
You want to preheat it to 375. That's mine's set already. So you might want to go set yours. Yeah. It's also nice because then you can put your cookie sheet on top of the oven on the stove as it does its second rise. And it'll be nice and toasty. So if we're going to do a 6-strand challah, I'm just getting mine lined up and all attached at the top. So what you want to try and do to end up with not such a thick top piece is I pinch the dough into these little points at the top. See these little, like that? Yeah. And that's where I attach it so that it's not quite so bulky at the top.
And this is for 3 also, right? 3 strand?
We're gonna do 6 right now. But if you do 3, you can do the same pinch at the top as well. 3 is just like a regular braid like you do in hair.
Okay.
All right, so if we are doing 6 strand, I'm trying to find a better angle on this where you can see better. It's gonna be backwards a little, but I'll walk you through. Okay. All right. Okay.
Your camera just turned off. One of your.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Are we back? We back in business? I'd really like it to go the other way. Let me see if I can do it. Okay. Here we go. Although I'm braiding under a tripod. We'll see how that works. Okay. So when we have 6 strands, are our 6 stranders ready?
Ooh, I did mine good.
Okay, so you want to name your strands. We got A, B, C, D, E, F, right? Or actually, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's easier to count which was which, whichever floats your boat. So I'm going to take strand 1 and pull it across all of the challahs. Strand 1 is going to go across, and strand 6 is going to go up, over, and through the middle of the other 4. So I've got 2, 3, 6, 4, 5, 1. Here's what it looks like. I'm then going to take strand 5, this one, go over across. And then strand 1 that's all the way over here, I'm going to pick up and put down the middle. I'm going to lift this strand. This is strand 2. I'm going to pull it over and across. And then this guy that's all the way over here, I think started as 6, is going to come down and through the middle. Trying to do this around a tripod. Let's see, so it's not going to be my best work here. I'm then going to pick this one up that's in the 5th position. Let's start calling positions instead of strand numbers. 5th position, go over and across. Take the one in the far right and come down through the middle. Then this one in number 2, over and across. And this one on the far left, down and through the middle. Seeing a pattern? We're going to take, ooh, stuck under my tripod. We're going to take this strand, strand 5, over and across. And then this one that's on the far right, down and through the middle. Strand in the 2nd position, over and across. Strand on the far left, down and through the middle. So I'm gonna move this because I can't keep going that way. So I'm gonna keep on doing this. And once you learn, you can go really quickly once you know what you're doing, right? It becomes sort of second nature. So I made my strands long and thin. So my challah is gonna be longer and thinner as opposed to tall and short. And the other thing that happens is as you do the challah, the strands pull. There's more weight on them.
Jordy, would you mind telling us which strand? Because I haven't got the pattern down.
Okay, so here I've got the one, here's the 5th position, the 5th one, all the way to the left, and the far right down the middle.
All right, down the middle.
Strand in number 2, all the way across, and then the far left down the middle. Made a very long challah, wow.
Okay, all right.
This one in the 5th position across, far right down the middle. 2nd position across, far left down the middle. Once you get to the end, it's a little hard to do.
Yes.
Once you run out of space, so I've got these extra pieces. I'm gonna slice it. There's my challah pancake. With this flat end, I'm just gonna pinch it together and tuck it under the challah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I actually do that sometimes on the top end. I'm cutting it as well because it's a little chunky up there and I don't love how it looks. So I'm going to do that and pinch it. So I've got a long, very thin challah. I may actually, I think for aesthetic's sake, I might make a ring out of it in this one. So just attach the ends to each other.
Why do we put tin foil or wax paper or whatever on the pan, between the pan and the bread?
I typically don't bake right on my cookie sheets. I usually like something in between. You know, parchment paper helps with the texture of the bottom, as do the sil pats. The silicone mats are essentially the same as using parchment paper. It's just a reusable version. If you don't have, you could go right on the cookie sheet.
No, I have it. I just was curious why.
Yeah, it helps with the texture of the bottom. So I've never really done a ring like this, but I kind of like it. It's kind of cute.
Oh yeah, that's great.
So I just attach the ends together, and I'm gonna pick it up and put it on my cookie sheet.
You think we can find on the internet that 6-strand formula?
Yes, for sure. And if you get Modern Jewish Baker, there's a diagram that's very effective. That'll walk you through what I just walked you through. That's where I learned it from, to do the 6-strand. It's definitely something that comes with practice. The more that you do it, the more you'll get used to it. Shayna, you look a little defeated. Didn't work? It's going to taste good, whatever it looks like. That's what I can promise you. That's for sure. So here's what do we do now? Our challahs are made. All of my dough is accounted for. And so, is my screen still on? Yes. All of my dough is accounted for. We're now going to let these sit. You want to let them sit at least 20 minutes, just because we have now flexed with the dough so much that we want to let it bulk up again. You could leave it an hour. Some people like to go really long. Honestly, what I do depends mostly on my patience level and how close we are to Shabbat services. Because if my dough didn't get made until 1 o'clock, which happens on many Fridays, I don't have time to let it sit that much longer to be able to then get ready for Shabbat. So it really does depend on sort of my patience level. What I do, so some people, just checking on my other one. Some people, when they make challah, egg wash it and put it right in the oven. What I have learned is that I think it's more aesthetically pleasing. If I egg wash it about 10 minutes before it's done baking, because then the dough has separated a bit and grown, and so I can egg wash more accurately. I have more surface area to access. The other thing I found that it does is sometimes my egg wash will brown more than I want in order to get the challah baked to the correct place. Mm. So the later egg washing I really have gotten into about in the last 6 months. I really like that method. So I'm gonna wait on my egg wash. Your egg wash can be all different ways to do egg wash. You can do a whole egg, like you mix it up like you were gonna scramble it and brush it on. You can do an egg yolk with some water. You can do either of those things with some honey in it if you want something a little sweeter. Some people have gone into vegan versions. I don't know that I believe in a vegan challah. It's an egg bread. I don't love the vegan challah idea, but if you're vegan or whatever it is, some people do them that way. You can do whatever you want, really. It's a personal preference. If you have just egg yolk, a straight up egg yolk with no water in it, it's going to be a pretty, it's going to be a very shiny challah and be
How about egg white?
Hmm?
How about egg? Could
just
you use
egg white? You can
egg
use
white?
just egg white. It's not going to give you much shine to it. It's going to be a pretty sort of matte, dull challah.
Oh, okay.
Usually I do just a whole egg scrambled up and brushed on. I usually brush all my challahs and then go back and brush them all again. For context, here's my challah pancake. Here's all the extra challah I had. And it's literally just going to go in a frying pan and get flipped. And then I deliver it to Matthew's desk while he's working. And that's what means Shabbat is coming in this house. It's our tradition. Everyone should find their own tradition.
Look here.
What's that question?
Just a little one.
Do you cover the bread while it's rising again? Yeah, so you can throw a towel over it. The towel I used, I'll usually throw over on top of it. I haven't because we're still looking at it, but just right on top like that you can do. Just because you don't want it to harden too much. So for 2 mediums lows, bake for 25 minutes and egg wash halfway through. Yeah, just about. And you want to watch your challah. And this is one of the things that you learn the more times you make it. You'll understand your oven better and you'll sort of have a better sense of timing. This is why challah is a journey. My first challahs I made, we're not very pretty and we're very dense and always kind of underbaked in the middle, which I kind of like sometimes. But that's what they all were. It's taken me a long time to sort of get to white fluffy challahs that I can consistently count on. That's a journey for sure. And so have a little grace on yourself for however this challah turns out.
Question.
Yes, answer
So
me.
you're saying your 6 strand is going to bake the same amount of time as my challah knot?
No, so the challah knots, if you did challah knots, they definitely don't need 25 minutes. Mine will probably bake about 18 is probably what the challah knots will do. I'm gonna watch them and see sort of how they're looking, because it also depends on how big you made them. My 6 strand will actually bake pretty quickly because it was such thin strands. It was so thin around and it was long until I wrapped it. That this will bake fairly quickly, although with the butter, sometimes it does need a little extra time because you got to think there's something really cold and melting in the center of it. So sometimes the butter challah does need more time.
Do you leave it at 375 for the whole period, or do you lower it to 350? Okay.
I leave it at 375 the whole time. The name of the cookbook is Modern Jewish Baker.
Baker. Okay, great. Thank you.
Here's the cookbook. As you can see, mine is torn and pages are wet. It's very well loved. She basically identifies the top doughs of Jewish life. So it's challah, babka, bagels, rugula, hamantash, and pita, and matzah.
Oh, fabulous. All right.
Here's Shana with hers. There we go. I do recommend it. I think it's a really great Jewish baking beginner spot. I think it's a great place to start from. I think she's pretty easy to follow. And she has, I like to experiment with my own challahs and come up with my own variations. She has many in her book. So in her book, same with babka, same with all of these things. So in her book, what do we have for challah? I'll tell you.
Her last name is Sarna, S-A-R-N-A?
Yes.
Okay.
So she's got a whole grain variation, everything bagel challah, rosemary garlic, za'atar and garlic, horseradish and dill, tomato basil, cinnamon raisin, walnut cranberry raisin, banana bread chocolate chip, chocolate cherry, balsamic apple date, pumpkin spice, pesto and goat cheese. And then she's got a leftover option with white chocolate challah bread pudding. And then she does challah dogs and pretzel challah dogs. As like
another question.
The babka recipe that you did was wonderful.
What? Who said something was wonderful?
Was unbelievable.
What was?
So could I clarify the time? So leave the bread set for 20 minutes, then bake it for 25 minutes, and 10 minutes before the end, you do an egg wash. Is that correct?
Yeah, 15 to 10.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Joan.
I just wanted to ask with the knots, since they're cooking and they're baking in the same oven with my challah, and they bake quicker, can I put the egg wash on at the beginning with them, or should I?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
This book makes me feel like a semi-professional baker. Yes, Shana, right? I mean, it's really accessible. It's a great cookbook to start with. And then as you get more advanced and fancy, we can do all kinds of things. I'm always a good place for cookbook recommendations. We have an extraordinary number in our house.
Jordy?
Yes.
If I'm doing one flavored and one plain for tonight, but when would I put on the sesame seeds or the what do I have?
Question.
The everything bagel topping.
Thank you. Great question. If you're going to put seeds on top, you want to egg wash and seeds right after. That's another great reason to delay the egg wash. The egg wash is what holds it on to the challah. And sometimes seeds can burn if you bake it the whole time. Or I love to put the minced onion on top as well. I love that. And so those can also burn if you have them the whole time. But you want to do right after the egg wash. I did the Friday after Thanksgiving, I put onion in the dough, mixed it right in, and then I stuffed it with cranberry sauce and did onion on top. And I had this sweet onion cranberry sauce challah. It was very good. Highly recommend. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can basically stuff a challah with anything.
I'm having trouble with the apple. The dough is getting really like disintegrating. It's all gushing out. The apple looks like apple pie filling is gushing out. So it's a mess.
Interesting. So it may be that you overstuffed it. It may be overstuffed a little. Listen, you're going to bake it and it's going to be wonderful. It might not be pretty, but it's going to taste very good. It may, if the apple is too wet, the dough around it may be a bit doughy inside. That may happen. That's my guess for you. Other questions? What else can I answer before I leave everyone to fend for themselves for their challahs in the oven? They're going to be beautiful. What I do ask, please send me pictures. Please email me pictures. We'll post them tonight. We'll post them on our Facebook and say Shabbat Shalom, and you can see what everybody's challahs look like. So we will post them all. If you email them to me, they'll all go up.
Thanks very much, Jordy. This is great.
You're welcome.
Anybody
have
Thank you very much. And we just use we just check the bottom of the challah with a spatula to make sure it doesn't get burnt, right?
Yeah, you can lift it up. If you want to see what the bottom of yours looks like, just take a spatula and you can see the underside and see if it's browning. That said, if your challah is really long, it may start to, if you put the spatula under the bottom, it may start to break on the sides. So the other thing you can do is you can take a pot holder, I guess that's what that's called, and lift it with 2 hands, just up.
Oh, okay. It's pretty long, so we'll see what happens. Okay.
A tip I was once given is if you bang on it with your knuckle, it should sound hollow.
That's how we're trying to get to it. We're just talking about getting to the bottom. Sammy, that's beautiful.
That's what they do on the Great Baking Show is they just listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy, what kind is yours?
If you just want to have a plain challah, you just do the braiding, use the basic recipe that you gave, right?
Yep.
And without any of the fillings.
Yes. Sammy, what's that one?
I put butter in it.
Just wait. It's amazing. Like it's gonna be like a Lisa, you've had this. It's like a croissant challah. It's the love child of a croissant challah, no?
Waiting for mine.
I'm telling you, my husband's not sharing. You can take it up with Matthew, although he loves you a lot, so maybe.
A little piece.
I'll talk to the boss. We'll see what he says. Anybody have any questions before we send you to bake your little beauties?
Thank you.
Jordy, we had a lot of trouble trying to stuff the apples in the challah. It's like with the honey, it got sticky. Is there a trick? Or I mean, we knew we had too much filling the first go around, but we have more rolls because it just didn't work for a long thing.
So what I'd recommend is having extra challah on the side. So doing a thin line, if that's happening for you, do a thin line of apple down the middle, use less honey, and really then you have more space. So if you have a thicker strand, right? If your strand is wider and you just have a thin in the middle, you can actually roll the strand like a cinnamon roll. That's the other thing
we did. That's because we couldn't figure any other way. The other thing is the dough felt tough. Do you think I over kneaded it with the dough hook, or?
I think you might have over kneaded. I think probably more likely is you added too much flour.
Okay.
If it's feeling tough, it probably has too much flour. It's very, very hard to resist the urge to keep adding flour. It's very hard to trust that you get through a sticky phase and that it'll come through.
Yeah, I still have flour left over. So I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm curious to see what it comes out like inside, what the texture's like. Let me know.
We will let you know. Thank you very much. It was sure a fun way to spend the day.
You're welcome. Thank you for everybody for hanging with us this afternoon. This was a lot of fun. Our next cooking.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, Bunny's the champ.
Our next cooking project is going to be hamantashen. We're going to make them in February. We're going to make hamantashen together, one variety, and then we're going to have a contest where everybody's going to make hamantashen at home and send pictures into me, and there will be voting on Facebook to see who is the great hamantashen winner of Temple Sinai. And there will be a fabulous prize at the end. Unclear what that will be. There will be a prize that is more than my forever adoration. So that's our next cooking project. We're very excited about it. Hamantaschen is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to make our own fillings, the whole shebang. So stay tuned. Hamantaschen baking is in February, about 2 weeks before Purim, just so that we have enough time for you to then make your own. So stay tuned. You'll get plenty of emails about it, but know that that's coming. We're very excited.
Great. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.